So this is the final variation I wanted to show you from the Wong Jones Shangri-La jacket, and you can see immediately that it looks very, very similar to the envelope illustration, and I wanted to do that because I really thought that a dark denim with a really bright print is going to look so good together, and it does. What do you know, it really does. Now with this one, I've only done one real change to this, and it's a very, very quick and easy change, and it's something that's worth you knowing how to do, which is basically I've made it sleeveless. Now, normally you'd say, okay, it's a vest or it's a waistcoat. Well, strictly speaking, this isn't. It's a sleeveless jacket, and that's only because we've still got this kind of jacket shoulder line here, and we've still got the shoulder pad. And in fact, in these, I've used a raglan shoulder pad, which looks like that. It's kind of shaped like that, as opposed to the normal ones, which are just kind of half moon shaped. And these have got that kind of 3D shape like that, which is really nice. It's quite a soft shoulder. It's almost an Armani shoulder, if that makes sense to you. So I've used those, and obviously when I use those, I kind of had to cover up the armhole here. I didn't want to see shoulder pad poking out. So I drafted a little tiny cat sleeve. And all I did to do that was I used the upper sleeve pattern, and I just eyeballed it. I traced off the top kind of piece, and then just kind of eyeballed the curve into it and played around with it a little bit, and it was beautiful. And I've lined this with the print fabric and just inserted it, and then I've bound the rest of the edge in this nice coloured fabric. And it looks really good, and also adds a very kind of slightly oriental flavour to this, which is what I wanted. You know, I was using the Chinese ball buttons and all this kind of oriental type fabric. So that looks really, really good. Now there's a few things I want to show you on this. One's really, really basic. I haven't attached the pockets yet, you can see there, floating free. And the reason I've done that is I wanted to show you that you really don't have to stick to any particular pocket position with this. It's really down to what looks best on you and what looks best on your garment. If you remember the first one I showed you, the green pockets, they were in the proper place, they were more down here. These I've moved up and slightly out to the side because this is sleeveless and it just sits on it better. So don't get too tied down with kind of where your pockets should be. Make it all up and then try it on and kind of place them and see what you like the look of. So that's why I haven't attached those yet. I'm still kind of playing with those. And the other thing to tell you is about these Chinese ball buttons. But before I tell you what I've done and why I've done it, I'm going to show you how to make them. So here I'm going to show you how to do the Chinese ball button. And please bear in mind that there are instructions and diagrams in the pattern, so you don't have to just kind of wing it and hope for the best. But of course, if you're a visual person, seeing it like this is going to be a real big help for you, I think. And also bear in mind another couple of things. First of all, you would not do it like I'm doing it on the stand here. I'm doing it like this so you can see it. If you've got any sense at all, you will do it on the flat and you will be very, very patient about the whole thing. The second thing to tell you is that I'm using this rather fat silky cord, and I would normally never use this. I'd normally use a flat bias or a much narrower cord, but again, it's just so you can see it. Now the key with this is you've got to be really, really patient and just take your time with them. But once you've got the knack, I promise you, you're making these all over the place because they're great. Okay, you secure the end of your cord or your bias, whatever you're using. And secure it against a piece of paper or something if you're doing this on flat. And here's what you do. You do one loop like this. You can see I put this around a pin like this just to hold it. Now I'm going to do another loop, very similar way, and I'm going to feed the end underneath here. Let me just pull this through so you can see it. Okay, so now I've got this little triangular bit here, okay, between my two loops. This is kind of key. You've got to remember that that bit's there. Alright, the last way to do it is another loop through here. Okay, see what we've got so far? And now we do the interesting bit. We weave it over, we weave it under. Can you see? Over and under, and gently pull. Okay, now if I just settle this for you, move that there, you can see I've got a knot shape going on already. You know, you've already got this kind of trefoil shape, and now what we've got to do is pull these two legs to tighten it all up. But you've got to bear in mind one thing: if you pull this leg, you'll tighten up this loop, and that's easy to do. But this leg takes care of both these loops, so you've got to be very, very patient and just tug it all together really gently. So I'm going to take these pins out, that are very kindly securing the whole thing, and I'm going to tighten it up for you, and it's going to take a little bit of fiddling and finessing, but it is worth it. I have to say, when they're done, they look great. So we've got our trefoil shape. I'm going to tighten on the two loops first, because that kind of makes sense to me. And it kind of gets a bit pretzely at some point. Do you see what I mean? Kind of gets a little bit pretzely, which is probably making me a bit snacky, but hey. And just keep tightening and tightening, and you just have to kind of feed them through and make sure that they all kind of tighten up at the same ratio. Otherwise you're going to get a big lump of cording that isn't tightened properly. Ask me how I know on this one. So the key with this one, as with pretty much anything else in doing anything fiddly in sewing, is patience, 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 because it will pay off, it really, really will. And now just fiddle, 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 fiddling. Fiddle, 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 fiddling. I really am fiddling here. Okay, so you get down to this, and this is obviously much, much bigger than your normal Chinese knot. You basically end up with a shape that's like that. It's like a real Chinese ball. Now when you do that, you've got two options. One is to just turn it over the other side and hand stitch your cords together and then snip them off and just use it as a button. Or you do what we did on this one, which is you keep the tails and you keep them together like that. So that is what you end up with. And I have to say, it's a really lovely trim to learn how to do. Once you know how to do it, you'll be doing it all over the place. I promise you, it's such a nice thing to be able to do. So now, let's go back and see how we've actually used these on the jacket. Okay, so now you've seen how to do the Chinese ball buttons, I'm going to show you why they're done the way they're done. You can see first of all that these are quite big, and they're quite big compared to the illustration on here, which are quite delicate, and they're much bigger than the pattern tells you to do them. And I've done that for two reasons. One is I really wanted to see this very kind of vivid fabric because I think it looks great, and the other one is, well, I'm quite clearly a plus size person, and I like to think that, you know, scaling the trims up is a good idea, so I made them a little bit bigger, and I'm really happy with how they look. I think they look really, really nice. But there's something you need to be aware of when you're putting on Chinese ball buttons. This is really, really key. And you may read the instructions in the pattern and think, well, she's finally lost her mind. This is clearly not going to happen, but it really does. When you do them, here is what you do. You put the button on the right side, and you put the loop, the fastening loop, on the left. It's the exact opposite to how you'd normally do it. You normally put your buttons on here and your buttonhole or your loops on here. When you do it the other way around on this one, that's how it works, I promise you. So it kind of goes, wraps over like that, and then that wraps over like that. And it's a really, really easy thing once you get your head around it, but you've really got to get your head around it, that's for sure. So this one is done in a really beautiful and very, very sturdy black denim that I got from fabric.com. It's made up beautifully, it really, really sewed together very, very nicely. And this is the same print trim that I used on the Kyoto skirt. If you remember, I said I brought it with us when we immigrated from the UK, so it's quite old. What I would say though is if you're going to make this jacket, the Shangri-La jacket, and the Kyoto skirt, do not wear them together. They won't sit together. The proportions are completely wrong, so please don't do that. But this is a really, really useful way of getting more mileage out of your pattern. It'll really work as a very kind of summery jacket alternative, just over a simple white t-shirt, maybe some white pants. That would make a really good outfit. And of course you can use it as a layering piece too when it gets colder. Turtleneck underneath, perhaps a cardigan on top, and it still crisps things up and looks really, really good. So all I have to say to you now is, obviously I hope you've enjoyed watching all these things about the Wong-Sing Jones Shangri-La jacket, and really I'd love to hear your comments. We'd really love to know what you think about these. Did you find it interesting? Did you find it useful? And you know, just tell us what you think. It's always good to know. And all I can say after that is thank you so much for watching.